The Countdown, Part 5 to the Broken World. The affair was in March of last year pre-lockdown. She ended in her own out of guilt according to what she says, and there are texts to Gina to that effect. It was in the following days that she suspected an STD. In other news, I have spent the better part of my morning with my father. My brother has really been great to pick up my slack, and he called me and told me to spend as much time as I could with our father today. My dad has taken this really hard. He is old school and does a lot of his suffering in silence. But we know it's bothering him. We talked in depth about what was going on and my future plans, which I shared with him. He's on board with it and sees it as the best alternative right now also. I called and asked WW if she could come by tonight instead of waiting until tomorrow. Once we talk tonight, I'll have a better idea of whether or not this path I've chosen will work out in the short to medium term while we are preparing for the baby in the months following the birth. I'm not trying to be so secretive and all, but I had asked for her input, and if there is a significant difference in my plan for the future and hers, then we will need to do some talking and maybe compromising. I had a list of things that I got some feedback on, and based on that feedback and my own thoughts after the fact, I believe I have a pretty good plan. I'll fill everyone in at some point soon. Well, my dad is now cutting my lawn, so I guess I'll go give him a rest and take him some water. The guy is 59 and can't sit still. If I turn my back on him, he'll start painting the house. He's been the guy that always challenged us but never pushed us to the point it created issues. He knew exactly when to let up and still does. His dad was a great person too, but never hugged him or said I love but 3 times in his life. Because of that, I get a hug when I arrive and a hug when I leave, and never has not interacted with one of you without saying I love you at one point. And my mom is the same way. She's at a loss on how to act. She is afraid to mourn the loss of her DAL but very much loves her. I think she is afraid it will hurt my feelings. She's been a part of our family for 8 years, ever since I was 24. She often told the story of me coming home and telling her I had met my future wife 3 months before I got the nerve up to ask her out. I actually met her the first time while I was dating someone else. I broke up with that girl the next day, and it took me 3 months to ask my WW out for the first time. And it's put stress on my brother's relationship. The young lady he dates is rather self-centered, in that it's all about her and having fun. Now that we have this family drama happening, she's having to take a back seat while my brother steps up in the public-facing end of our business, and she's being a little childish about it. But I'm sure she'll come around or my brother will cut her loose. I would be shocked to find that he's willing to put up with much from her. He's been very adamant about the fact they are not long-term, and she is aware of that. Just one more couple affected by stupid decisions by others. Well, last night we talked and talked and talked. Got hungry and ordered pizza delivered. Talked and talked. It was very productive. First, she did spend the night but stayed in the extra bedroom. There was no physical stuff at all, so we can all relax. Second, I had asked her earlier what she thought the most practical outcome should be in all of this, and she was very pragmatic. She understands that I am wanting a divorce, and she understands that R is not something I believe I can commit to with her. We spoke of how we could work it out where both of us can experience the lead up to the birth, buying baby stuff and setting up a nursery, that type of stuff, as well as the doctor visits, and also how to include my family and hers. In short, her answer was, I want whatever will get you to a place where you will be happy. So, I told her what I wanted. On Monday, my attorney will amend my petition for divorce and ask instead for a legal separation. This gives the same financial protection as a divorce, plus allows us to agree to not only a financial settlement but send a proposed custody agreement. Since a judge will not rule on custody until after the birth of the baby, we can implement this agreement during the first month or 2 after the birth while waiting on a court date and show the judge it is working, as well as tweak it if we find it necessary. Also, by doing it this way, if either one decides to become a problem during the process, the other has a way of proving their willingness to cooperate. The time frame on the ruling on the legal separation will be between 30 to 45 days. So, in a little over a month, we can have the legal separation in place. I'm not going to go into much detail regarding the financials, but they are fair. The custody arrangement is basically, we will share my home during the last 2 weeks of her pregnancy, based on the due date, and the first 6 weeks following the birth. After that, one will live here for a week while the other lives someplace else and rotate out each week. Rules will be in place regarding any third party, and we have a few other details we are looking at as well. After the baby is 6 months old, we will reevaluate and adjust, or by then we'll have a judge's ruling. This is not, in my opinion, sustainable long-term, but a good start. This is something I believe in the long run will allow me to be as much a part of this birth as I can, considering the situation. It gives her the opportunity to show me she is willing to do what's necessary to be a better person in the future. It also allows me to make 100% sure that I am making the right decision to eventually divorce. Though I don't have any doubts about my decision to divorce, it is important to me for the future in case our child ever asks. I can honestly say I did all I could. Don't worry too much about living together during those weeks. We have 3 bedrooms. The nursery will be in one will be hers, and I'll keep the master. There is also a detached 2-car garage with a room above it. It has a bathroom in it as well as a small kitchenette. I'll be moving my office there, and if living together becomes too much of an issue, I'll stay there a night or two to get a break. It is possible I will move into that apartment earlier if we get to a point where she moves back to the home earlier. For example, if we seem to be getting along well enough, I'm not opposed to her moving back to the home in a couple of months, especially if she gets her new job, which is 10 minutes from my home. We talked a lot about why she did what she did and made some progress in that front. A lot less emotions and more clear discussions. That talk will continue today, but I'll wait to share that later. She's on board with this arrangement and is at least saying the right things, but I need to see action. Words don't mean crap. It's awkward having her here right now. I am not necessarily regretting her staying last night, but I am not comfortable with it either. It's an extremely strange feeling to have for your wife. I found myself in bed this morning getting angry. I never got angry last night, but this morning it was very intense. So, I got up and went for a run. We have planned to be around each other today some more. I'm not sure I'll be able to do that yet. She's still asleep since it was after midnight when we finally went to bed. She will sleep at least another 2 hours. She's an 8-hour person when it comes to her sleep. I sleep very little myself. It's funny what you know about your spouse. Stupid things like their sleep habits, but then something like this hits you. I guess I'll officially start calling her WW instead of STBX to be more accurate for the time being. I'm doing the best I can do right now, and all of this could blow up or take off in a direction I am not prepared. We'll see. Divorce still is the end goal here after I have been able to enjoy what I can of the birth of my first child without fear of losing that option due to bad blood between myself and my WW. If I was so easily swayed by what I think I ought to do, then I would have blown it up, walked away, and leave a bitter ex to raise a child with nothing but a check to remind them they have a father. Yes, I can change a diaper, prepare a bottle, bathe an infant. I am sorry you're not able to do that. It's not new to me with younger siblings. Of course, there will be a learning curve, but honestly, I'm surprised this would even be a concern to anyone. And one more time, I will not be able to divorce until after the birth anyway. Why would I leave it to chance when I have an option that keeps her happy right now and does not create any drama for myself? If this is what I need to do to come out on the other end in a better position by way of custody, I'll let her sleep in the bed next to me. I'm not an animal and can exercise self-control. If not, I can always reminisce about the good old days of her in a hotel room with the AP that should sew it. I want to be in my child's life. Period. I'll do what I need to do. The R possibility is a very big concern of mine. First, I wanted to make sure she understood that is in no way an attempt at R. I have no desire to mislead her about that. Our discussion today was about possible R and fine-tuning rules of a nesting custody. She's saying she understands that is not an option, but I'm not convinced. Which is okay, as long as I'm honest about it and she is not able to look back and say that wasn't the deal. The cost to us as parents will be minimal. Grandparents have already begun to go crazy. So, here's the rest of the weekend. Friday night we started out talking about the future as it pertains to the baby. We eventually began what is probably the most poignant and detailed discussion we have had at this point regarding her cheating. She simply asked me what I needed from her to make as much of this right as possible, and that opened up a frank discussion on where I was as far as wanting a divorce and not being interested in R. She was distraught that I had not softened even a little on that stance, and that's when we went into the whole separation, custody discussion. But later we came back to the affair. When we returned to that, she was very open about how she was not able right now to give me an answer as to why she did it. She could give me her thought process and reasoning behind how she convinced herself it was okay. Excuses, as she called them. She was turning 30 and was for the first time feeling insecure about herself and how she looked. Looking back, she realizes how stupid it was, but it was the truth at the time. The compliments made her feel better about herself. It was strange craving someone else's attention, but she felt like another person. It was reinforced by Gina, and then she went to great pains to find fault in me, thus creating the false affair she thought I was having. Looking back, she was struck at how fast it started and got out of control. She talked about being in the fog of the affair, evidence she is reading up on affairs, and again she felt like she was this whole other person. When it hit her on her birthday how horrible of a person she was and that she had more than likely destroyed our lives together, she wanted to run and hide. All that weekend after she tried to figure out how to tell me, and she was just flat out afraid to face the consequences, even though she knew it was the right thing to do at the time. Once again, as she put it, she made the wrong choice and made it worse. Monday when I was assaulted, she became so upset. She had no idea if he was involved. She said he was always bragging about knowing bad people. She swore that if she would have had a gun with her, she would have shot him. But then through my recovery and her own STD treatment, she just kept putting it off, and the next thing she knew we were in this wonderful place in our marriage. She talked about around Christmas this last year when she was so depressed and seemed to be crying all time. I remember this BTW. She again was trying to talk to me about it but was frozen in fear of what might happen. And then I brought up having children and she just was riding that high again and enjoying how well our marriage was going. I also for the first time told her what I went through that first week after finding out. Pretty much my first 2 weeks of posts here. It was the first time I had gone into any deep dive into what I was dealing with. She was quiet and listened, did not argue about anything or disagree with any conclusions I came to regarding the state of our marriage or what I felt about her as a human right now. Nothing I said was in anger but very matter of fact. I reminded her of the choices she took from me and she agreed that was unfair. Again, I reminded her of how hard it was to trust her. Her response to that was, "I understand, but I also put myself in a situation where I cannot prove my sincerity and shame and remorse, because you cannot stand to be around me. I know I have hurt you. I have hurt your parents too. But I have hurt myself also, and while I am willing to pay the price, I don't know how I can help you if I can't be here for you. I don't want you to continue to pay the price for my stupidity." That pretty much ended Friday night. It was a rehash of the same old thing but definitely more productive. This morning was more about adjusting our custody plan. As I said, I was already in a bad mood, but about an hour after she woke up and had breakfast, I just lost it. We were going over some minute detail of the custody agreement, and it struck me how idiotic all of this was, and I lost it and yelled, "You know, if you had just kept your damn legs shut, I would not be wasting my time trying to figure out how to split my child down the middle." She got quiet and apologized. I again yelled, "I don't need your damn apology. I need my damn life back to normal, and not of a cheater for the mother of my child. We have spent almost 7 years together and you decided meant absolutely nothing. Nothing. And for being a loyal husband, I get to see images of my wife sleeping with a freak on steroids in my head over and over. That was the worst of it, but I didn't stop there." She sat quietly and didn't respond, which made me even angrier. After I calmed down, she apologized and asked me what I needed her to do, and I told I needed her to leave. And she did. She called my mom and asked her to check on me and make sure I was all right. My dad came by later this afternoon and we talked, and I was able to calm down. So, you see, when I'm posting on here and sound all together, I'm not. I'm screwed up so bad I can't have a normal conversation with her 2 days in a row. I am mad, but I feel the need to defend her. I miss her but can't stand seeing her. I love her but I can't touch her. I honestly feel like I am splitting into two people. And I am trying so hard not to be that guy that screws and complains about his ex-wife. I do not want to be angry at her or anyone else for the rest of my life. I have a child with her. For the first time in my life, I hate being me. I hate my life and I hate the world at large. This is not who I am. So maybe someone can explain to me how to handle that. Divorce immediately. Can't. Go no contact. Well, great, once again get shafted by not being there while my wife is pregnant with our first child. Oh, and if I don't play nice, I might get screwed in the divorce. Take your time. Hurry up. Go sleep with somebody. Don't sleep with anyone. Be nice. Get mean. It's insane. Update. My mother reached out to her Sunday morning and checked on her and at the same time wanted to talk to her. I'm not privy to their discussion, but I did get an email from her last night which she says my mother encouraged her to send and break no contact. She wanted me to know that she is not upset about the things I said or the yelling. She knows it's her fault and that I'm having to adjust to a situation that she caused and I didn't ask for at all. She was concerned that I might think she was angry at me and assured me that was not the case. She also told me to go forth with the legal separation, the financial settlement, and the agreed-upon custody arrangements. She will sign off on all of it, and she promised to wait as long as it took for me to decide on how our future will look like. I just replied back a few minutes ago that I had sent the lawyer our notes and she would get started with the paperwork as soon as possible. I told her I would get up with her later this week about the two of us starting plans for the nursery. I suggested her mother and my mother meet her here at the house to start working on ideas. My brother and I are already discussing the garage apartment cleaning and slight remodeling I would like to do. My dad is already dusting off the power tools and glad to have a project. At this point, I think I just need to work my plan. Encourage as much interaction with the families as possible and continue to be around her but at arm's length. Maybe not focus on the affair so much right now. I am in this right now and I just need to accept it. Not forget but accept the circumstances. There has to be a point where I can achieve an equilibrium of some sort. When I do, maybe a more constructive dialogue can take place, and I can make solid decisions that I can be confident about. And more importantly, figure out my feelings. Worst case scenario, barring a complete nuclear explosion by her, is two people co-parenting without undermining the other. We go next week for the blood test to determine paternity. That was a very sore subject for her, I could tell, but to her credit she did the research and made the appointment immediately after the doctor visit last week. Got in trouble in high school first time I got drunk. Never touched it again. I won't even touch weed, though I know very few people my age that don't. WW was a casual user up until we got serious. She stopped when she realized I wasn't going to do it, and while she was welcome to continue, I didn't want it in the house. Plus, I don't like the feeling of being out of control of myself. I was somewhat the type to suffer in silence after I grew up until the assault. My therapist showed me the fallacy of that when I had such a large supportive family. And honestly, looking back, I have to be fair. WW really stepped up considering what I know she had put herself through. I mean, it was a lot of lying, but seriously, she juggled quite a bit during the first 3 months of lockdown. I started sleepwalking again Saturday and Sunday night, so that in and of itself is enough for me to reach out. Saturday night I took all the towels out of the linen closet and put them in the tub. Last night I turned on all of the lights in home except in my bedroom and went back to sleep. My twin sisters are staying tonight to make sure I don't do anything stupid, and the rest of the week my brother will be here. I don't want to take anything, but if ramping up my workouts don't work, I'll have to get something. My dad and I kind of threw ourselves into the garage apartment renovation yesterday. He came by Tuesday evening, I think it was, and we got to talking and got some ideas going back and forth. It was good to do some labor-intensive work the past 2 days, and spending time with my dad is really nice. Not much to update on WW front. The lawyer filed the legal separation papers this afternoon. I informed her about it by text. She acknowledged it. We have the blood test for the DNA Tuesday morning, then I am leaving immediately for the rest of the week to do some on-site work with a couple of clients, and will be back late Friday. Looking forward to getting back to work more. Said it is still happening, and my mom is looking forward to it and promises to work hard to not to be upset with WW. Hopefully MIL will act right. I believe it will go okay. WW has been good about no contact this week. OBS called and checked on both of us. Apparently, she and OBS are talking. So, I have that going for me. Guess they're comparing notes, who knows. That's about it. Life is moving forward and I'm still not feeling very much part of it. I'm just taking it a day at a time right now. I'm not making any more plans for the near future. Said I should get some momentum going with her, the baby, and family. Tuesday was already planned. Right now, I'm content with being on the outside looking in. At least until I get some type of calm about myself. I have no idea what their relationship is, other than OBS stated she called WW to check on her and assure her that I, OBS, hold no animosity toward WW and that her priorities should be the child and repairing what's left of our relationship. Whether we are or D. I assure you it became a short phone call once she told me that she had been in contact with WW. I will treat her friendship with the same suspicious eye that I view anything I hear from WW, which I also assure pisses me off. I struggle with the fact our marriage was great in my mind. I asked her, was I a bad husband or person? Was our marriage so bad? She says no, and also claims our marriage was great and it was her insecurities that helped to foster the false narrative in her mind that was acceptable at the time. I cannot process that in my mind. I cannot understand being able to be two completely different people, feelings and all. So, I'm stuck thinking, well, she must have never really cared about me, our marriage, our life together. So, she must just be a liar that I'll never be able to trust. It's so difficult to be planning for what's best for the mother of my child and at the same time be so angry with her. At this point, I think for my own peace of mind I need to work my plan and be patient. Gina and her friends probably did better than harm. She made a report on the harassment from Gina's teacher friend as well as the male teacher. He just would not leave her alone. Kept asking about us and whether she wanted to meet for lunch and talk. Stuff like that. A relationship vulture. Anyway, the complaints went a long way toward her getting the job at the state education department, which is more money and better opportunity. As for OBS, I feel as though it's another betrayal. I'll watch her closely now. Eventually I'll speak to WW and stop the contact if there is more than that one call. I'm not shy about demanding things at this point. She doesn't have to do what I demand, but I don't have to tolerate anything from her I don't like. And I don't like the contact with OBS. It troubles me. WW is coming over in the morning early to get ready for our mothers to come by and start discussing redecorating a room for the nursery. I plan on putting in an appearance and then get back to work on the garage apartment. Should be finished on it tomorrow. Said it was more or less okay. I admittedly was acting childish, more like a moody teenager. My mom, my sisters, her mom and sister, and WW was at the house. It was a little awkward, but my mom worked hard to make everyone comfortable at my request. They spent the better part of the day going over nursery ideas and potential names and other stuff. I know WW really appreciated the day. I pretty much stayed outside and worked on the finishing touches of the garage apartment with my brother and dad. I did put in an appearance early to be polite, but like I said, I was not very hospitable. Afterwards, the WW and I spoke about the paternity test Tuesday, and she expressed her gratitude in my decision to have everyone over to kind of break the ice and at the same time kick off the family's involvement in the pregnancy. We did not discuss anything else. I was not in the mood to get into the affair and our future together or apart. I spent the rest of the holiday weekend with friends and family and did not see her until Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning, she met me at the house and we went to have the paternity test. She had absolutely no hesitation. Told the nurse what we wanted and why. They took the blood, and they told us we would receive the results in 7 to 10 working days. That was it. We walked out. In the car as we drove home, she was very upset and crying. And she said, "I have lost you, haven't I?" Just like that. And I answered her yes. She was quiet for the rest of the ride home. We went inside and talked. Basically, I told her I cannot right now see any path where I can emotionally or physically interact with her. I cannot stand the thought of touching her. I can't trust her. And it hurts being around her, but I have no alternative right now, so I need to make the best of it. Basically, all the things I have told her before. And I needed her to understand that going forward, I needed her to realize that even though she was moving back into the house and the two of us are going through the birth and pregnancy together, that I can't see us together as husband and wife. So, with that understanding, she is moving her things into the house while I'm working out of town this week. I will split my time between the house and the apartment. We had a very frank discussion on financial responsibilities, splitting the utilities, groceries, etc. rules regarding privacy. Master bedroom is mine. She is using the spare bedroom and the nursery will be what is now my office. All of this was part of the plan to get through the pregnancy. She brought up bonding. She was open about her increased drive because of the pregnancy. She also knew part of it was a need to engage in hysterical bonding. She had discussed it with her therapist and so knows what it is and why it occurs. And while taking care of herself is something she's done often in our marriage, both around me and when I'm traveling, she is like anyone else and prefers a partner. I explained to her my current desire for her is absolutely zero and any physical encounter between us would be void of any emotions anyway. I didn't say that to be mean. It is the truth. She was hurt by it but again says she understands. We both realize being in physical proximity will probably change that at some point, so I was clear that she should not read anything into it other than it's a physical need being met. I also told her not to bet on it happening. I know this sounds clinical and even demeaning, but I really feel this needs to be out in the open. I also informed her that once the legal separation was in place that our physical lives would be considered separate and none of the other's business. The only condition was that neither of us could bring anyone else back to the home. Of course, I get the "I'm not interested in anyone else and I'll wait until you are ready" speech. We have set up some boundaries about communication. I'm not interested in anything that does not relate to the baby, her physical health, or the house. If she needs to talk, she can call a friend, her mother, or her therapist. I just can't be there for her in that way right now. My goal is to reach an equilibrium, a point where my tolerance for her can increase to a level where I can be cordial. I'm not there yet, and she knows it, and she knows I will continue trying until I get there. The only thing I agreed to be her request to provide me with her location and who she is with at all times. She sees it as a way to increase my trust in her. I see it was a symptom of why I don't trust her, but hey, it's her call. I left around noon and had a 4-hour drive to the hotel I'm staying in until Friday morning. I should be back home late that afternoon. That's it so far. Not very eventful. Basically, the same old discussion. And I'm really getting tired of having it. She is saying everything right. She's doing everything right. But I'm just not able to accept her as being sincere. She's working hard to understand the why. When I am around her, I see her putting in the work. I hope to take the week here to again relax and remove myself from the whole situation. I have a lunch meeting tomorrow with the IT manager and plant manager for the company I'm setting up this week. They are nice. The plant manager is an older guy that started as a first-line worker and worked his way up. I love talking to these people. They know what's really effective and what is not. Finding one of these people in a high-level managerial position is gold. The young lady that is the IT manager is about 2 years out of college. Young enough to know her stuff but in the workforce long enough to get a taste of the real word. She's sharp and not afraid of hard work. Plus, she has a killer sense of humor to go along with the knowledge. And no, she's not a potential date. As my dad says, she bats for the other team. It helps being in this environment. It's so much easier to deal with the technical world and business. Honestly, if I could walk away from my marriage right now, I would probably delve into work 24/7 and never regret it. Arrangement. I was not expecting the renovations to the garage apartment to go so quickly. That plus her job change put her closer to my house. Throw in the nursery setup, increase work travel for me, and me being impatient to move forward. Think just ripping of the band-aid as opposed to pulling it off slowly. I decided to just get it over with. And just to remind people, this is me covering myself moving forward as it relates to custody. If she decides to go into crazy mode, then I have documented actionable evidence that I have been putting the child's best interest first. And the legal separation protects me financially and has a pre-approved custody arrangement outlined for after the child's birth. I see a lot of people suggesting just kick her to the curb and other snap decisions like that. And if there was no baby I would, but there is, and I'm willing to trade some inconvenience in my life for a better outcome later on. Not stay married to her, but adhering to our separation agreement is something I'm willing to do to increase greater access to my child. Think of it this way, I am probably not really good relationship material right now. I'm guessing I'm at least a year away from being in the right frame of mind to even be trying to date, much less a long-term relationship. Why not use that time to the benefit of my future legal rights to my child? I can always go out and get laid if that is my intention, but right now even that has its issues for me. She broke her vows, not me. I realize it's a technicality, but it's important to me. No touchy another woman until I'm free. And right now, I'm not free. While I didn't view it as a manipulation, I can see how it comes off that way. My attitude toward that statement when she said was pretty much, yeah right. In your dreams. Really, that was my first thought. I just caught myself and responded in a way that I felt was more diplomatic. My initial response would be no. My mother is tolerating her right now. My father is more sympathetic to her, but in a way that he feels sorry for her. My brother will back me and the twins will too. Their position is whatever makes me happy. Now with that said, I would fully expect my family to move past it if there was a reconciliation. It would be viewed as my business and they would not want to make it any harder. It's just the way they are, and if it was one of my siblings, I would do the same. You have to understand, when I talk to them about this, there is no attacking her by them. They express their opinions but never attack her. They voice their disapproval, but it's not a witch hunt. I have no one in mind at all that I want to sleep with. I'm sure knowing she is sleeping with someone else would bother me while we are in the same house. Is it a test? Might be. If so, I didn't do it consciously. I might need to think about why I said it. I do not want a divorce. I just cannot see a way to stay married to her. Does that make sense? That's an important distinction to me. She made this mess. I didn't want any of it. I cannot see myself getting to a point where I can trust her. I can't visualize that at all. I can't bring myself to physically touch her. The affair, the STD. It all makes me cringe. I can't see me getting over the photos of them. If I can't see a way to get over these things, then how can I be married to her? It would not be fair to me or her. Can these change with time? Possibly. But right now, I don't see it. The baby has given her a reprieve of sorts. It gives her prolonged access to me and the opportunity to maybe change the way I feel right now. I freely admit it. But it is not my desired outcome. Again, at this point she has made it impossible for me to see a way to stay married to her. As for bonding with her, I believe that if anything changes it would be this. Simply because of biology and the psychology behind hysterical bonding. I really do not have a physical desire to touch her. And I have no need to assert my claim to her physically. At this time, I can exercise self-control. But I'm not naive enough to not see the potential is there and what pitfalls lie therein. Let's just hope I'm stronger than we all believe I am. My comment: there's no possible way to get over it or forget what she's done. My point: the hysterical bonding stuff won't have a lasting effect. You'll still feel stuck with a cheater and have mind movies of her with Dinky Pinky. I don't think you'd ever have a good marriage with her again, knowing what you know. But I'm not you, and I don't know your wife other than from the actions you've described. What sucks to me is she has not only ruined the marriage, with her deceit, she has set it up where you will not be rid of her for 20 years. With a baby together, you're glued to her in many ways, financially and emotionally. I won't be able to fully escape my lousy ex for at least 6 more years. She's really got you hog-tied to her. It's a sad thing. I am working on next part. Do you think OP will be glued to her in the end? Subscribe to catch the final ending.